Hi, everybody. Welcome to Meet the Candidates. I'm Lindsay Shands. I'm the co-president of the Woodstock PTA and organizer of this event. And I'd like to introduce Cindy Bell from the League of Women Voters, who will be our moderator tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, we're going to go over the rules before we get started. Each candidate is going to have a 3-minute opening statement. We did draw lots, and Ms. Konyarutia drew the short straw tonight. If you need an index card or a writing implement, just raise your hand. Lindsay will get that for you. Questions should be issues only, no statements, no personal remarks, and all questions should be legible. Thank you. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and all questions will be answered by all candidates. Please turn off your electronic devices or silence them until the end, and I will do that also. Okay, and hold your applause till the end, please. Okay, and each candidate will have a 3-minute closing statement. We have a timekeeper, Eve Bear, who has been kind enough to come, and she has cards where she will mark 1 minute, 30 seconds, and when you see the pink card, it's time to stop. Okay, we are going to start with Ms. Konyarutia.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jillian Konyarutia. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I want to thank the League of Women's Voters for holding this event. I'm a lifelong resident of the district. I attended and graduated from Onteora schools. I live in West Shirley with my husband and my 2 daughters. They're 4 and 6, who also attend schools in the district, one at First Steps Preschool and then the other one at Woodstock School. I'm looking forward to answering everybody's questions tonight, and I'm looking forward for you guys to get to know me better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knutson.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rick Knutson. It's an honor to speak to you tonight. First, I want to thank Cindy for her steady leadership this last year on the board, and Jillian and Corinne for standing up and running. Thank you all for stepping up to the plate. My family's been in Woodstock since my immigrant grandparents came in the 1940s because the mountains reminded them of Norway. My dad spent idyllic childhood and teen years here in the 50s, and my wife and I are finally able to live the dream of becoming full-time residents. Music is my passion. My background in public school service is hundreds of hours as an accompanist, director, coach, as well as 3 years being a PTA president at my daughter's large, diverse elementary school in Brooklyn. I've also served on the board of directors of our apartment building for more than 25 years, about half of that as board president. I think I've been elected and re-elected to leadership positions on boards because I'm a patient listener, a good collaborator, as musicians need to be, and a big picture thinker. My experiences have prepared me for this job. But there's another more immediate reason that I'm up here. Like many of you, when in January I read about the governor's intention to cut $6 million from our annual state aid allotment, $6 million less a year every year, I could hardly believe it. I saw the headlines in the paper, Onteora prepares for the worst. What did we do? How could this be? Well, the answer is there's been a provision in state aid formula for the last 17 years that in any given year, no district could receive less than it did the previous year. Our state funding has stayed level, even as our student population has been cut in half. As a result, the state government views us as overfunded. How overfunded? $6 million a year. And they're not singling us out. They know that statewide, aid is not going proportionally to where students are and the need is. We're in a particularly vulnerable position because our enrollment decline has been among the steepest, certainly the steepest in our area, and the state calculates our tax base to be nearly 2.5 times wealthier than the average district. The aid formula is based on population data from the 2000 census when Onteora had 2,400 plus students. We now have 1,050. Albany has noticed. They say adjustments are coming. It's only a question of how much and how fast. In this context, I think it's absolutely crucial Onteora continue the planning and specification process for a central campus. If we step away from embracing a more sustainable model yet again, as has happened multiple times in living memory, I think it's nearly inevitable that our students will lose some programming they love and some supports they need. And it won't be in a far-off future, but as soon as when our current elementary kids are in middle high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau.
My name is Corinne Nadeau, and I'm a mom of 2 upcoming kids in the district, and I live in Bearsville. I'm an art therapist, a teacher, and an educational leader. My beginnings started in a small town and district similar to this one. My family had a small farm of chickens, ducks, and goats. My mom worked in the school system as a secretary for the superintendent for 35 years. My dad was a local carpenter who served on our town planning and zoning board for 15 years. I remember the teachers who shaped me, Mr. Horton, who was in charge of peer advocacy, and Ms. Grandazzo, my art teacher, who helped pave the way for my interest in what I've dedicated my life to. Our school systems create the conditions for teachers to help kids thrive. For over 2 decades, I have been a rigorous advocate in the fields of child mental health and education. I've had the privilege of learning from a famous educational leader, Alana Aguilar, for 2 years in her training program, who specializes in effective strategies for positive school transformation. I've written state-accredited curriculums, worked at a rural, city, nonprofit, public, private, community-based, local, and multi-state and national level. I have experience and diverse vantage points, and I walk the walk when it comes to being child-centered. I currently am a consultant for Child Guidance Center and the YMCA. My approach to leadership is leading with love and warmth. I build trust by being authentic, compassionate, mindful, and caring. I'm no stranger to making magic work through innovation and strategic creative thinking when there's no funding, especially in mental health, especially in education, and especially in mental health. I know I am new. I came to this district 6 years ago, like many young families in pursuit of a better quality of life and education for our children. And I've witnessed an incredible PTA, countless stories of teachers who are making an impact with their caring instruction, and administration who provides access to wraparound services. And I see we're in crisis, and I want to help. I'm new, but I care deeply, and I'd like to bring a refreshing and informed perspective, one that uplifts our educators and children, and vicariously our larger community members. By investing in our wonderful existing schools, Bennett schools and Woodstock, not continued closures, mean investing in the future vitality of our community and our children's futures. I'd like to pour all of my heart, expertise, diversity of thought to this district to support our superintendent, and it would be an honor to do so.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Bishop, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to introduce myself and tell you why I hope to serve another 3 years on our school board. But first, I'd like to thank Jillian, Corinne, and Rick for running for school board. It's a great job. I'm a retired public school educator. I taught 4th grade for 8 years in an elementary school in Monticello, New York. Education was a second career for me and one that I still love. While teaching, I completed my master's in special education and then later my administrative certification. I went on to serve at Ulster BOCES as their Special Education Training and Resource Center coordinator, in Hyde Park as the director of special ed, and finally in Onteora as the director of pupil personnel services for 10 years. I've been a resident of the district for almost as long as I've worked there, since I've worked here. I moved to the town of Hurley in 2013 with my daughter and my granddaughter. They've remained in the district also, relocating to Mount Tremper. My granddaughter started school here in our universal pre-K program and will enter 7th grade in September. The Catskills are our home, and I'm grateful that Onteora brought us here. My time working as a central administrator prepared me well for the work that I do on the school board. I've observed many boards and worked with many superintendents over time, and I know better than most how important consistency in leadership is and how disruptive and counterproductive change in leadership can be to our staff, our community, but more importantly to our students. I'm running for school board to assure our amazing students that their academic programs, services, and facilities will only improve with time. I'm running to assure our administrators, faculty, and staff that I support their profession, their perseverance, and their commitment to our students and our community. I got lost. I'm running to assure our parents and all our Onteora taxpayers that I see you, I hear you, I understand your fears and concerns about the effects of rising taxes, decreasing enrollment, reconfiguration, and decreasing state aid that is frustratingly and directly tied to our declining student enrollment. These are difficult times, and we're faced with hard decisions, but together we can make Onteora an even better school district. To me, soaring to new heights is not just a slogan, it's a battle cry. I hope your vote will position me to stand with you in support of providing a fiscally sound educational experience that continues to support the arts and athletics, academic excellence, including college and career pathways for all students, in a state-of-the-art district that honors and elevates all of our students and families from every village and every hamlet. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of really good questions from the audience, and long ones. Okay, but we're going to start off with a short one. Please describe the role of a school board member, Mr. Knudsen.
A school board member represents the community, has to keep faith with the students in the district and the taxpayers and the community that supports them. It's an unpaid volunteer position. It's a very important job. You have to take in and synthesize a lot of very complicated information and inputs and use that information to make judgments and set policy goals for the district that will put it on a good path and a healthy path. The school board has one employee, that's the superintendent. I think it's important that the school boards both support the superintendent, but also when it is needed, ask hard questions. And it's sort of like being in a family. You support your family, that's your default position, but sometimes they need a little tough love or to be questioned on what they're doing. I would look at it as an opportunity to bring my judgment, my intellect, and my compassion and care for the community, and make sure that the district is on a good path that is going to serve the students in the future, because that would be my North Star, is whatever course of action or policy benefits the students and protects their educational opportunities in the long run. That's what we should do. That is the most important thing.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau.
So I understand the experience of a board member. You should be, I feel like, a voice of the tax-paying stakeholders, students, teachers, and kind of thinking about the district. Also supporting the superintendent in the school by guiding and setting policies, defining priority goals, monitoring and evaluating the progress, approving contracts, bonds, budgets, and also evaluating the superintendent. I have a lot of experience in this and ed leadership. I oversaw 80 campuses nationally where we met all the time on enrollment goals. Are we meeting our goals each quarter? I evaluated heads of schools, principals, also higher levels of leadership that were involved in kind of equivalent to superintendents, and helping really think about how we can sustain and better our schools. And I really think that I would love to see the strategic plan for the district reported out every couple of months and presented on what are we doing to meet the goals? What are we doing to move the meter on the things that we say we are doing? I just want to see more of that reported. I think that would be really helpful in terms of the board and seeing those goals moved by our superintendent.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop.
In addition to all that's been said, I think it's important for school board members to realize that when we're individuals and we're out in public and people want to speak to us about their concerns or they have questions, that we can take that information in, but then we don't respond because we're not in the role of board trustee when we're by ourselves. We're in the role of board trustee only when the 7 of us are sitting at the table together. So that's when we can respond, and that's when we can make decisions. I think you've both spoke about goals, and yes, that's a big piece of what we do, and typically the superintendent will incorporate the board's goals into her goals, or his goals, but ours is a woman, and that we also set the mission and vision for the school district. We do that as a committee or as a school board along with the superintendent. We write and set policy. We are fiscally responsible for the school district. All expenditures are approved by the school board, and we hire and evaluate the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Khan-Urrutia?
So our one job on the school board is to pick our one employee, which is the superintendent, and to evaluate the superintendent. However, piggybacking on what everyone else has said, I think it is important to communicate with the community and the parents within the community. I think that's a very important thing. I think we've seen that, it's been a huge thing in the past year, and I think the board has made efforts to have better communication. I think it's also, we have to look at budget, services, policy, all of those other things. So that's what I believe.
Thank you. Okay, this one's a long one. These are related, but me? You can't hear me? Oh, sure. Okay. The governor has proposed lowering Onteora's annual state funding by up to $6 million a year. How should the district prepare for that possibility? And given the declining enrollment, do you have any creative solutions for increasing student population? So we're going to start with Ms. Nodal.
So I think it was the Save, Hold, Harmless piece that was presented. And fact, it did not pass because we have legislators protecting education and that we voted in. So I would say that Senator Michelle Hinchy is advocating for us, and I am also an education advocate who will be advocating for all of the funds that we need for our district. I'm not going to accept that we will be getting lower funding for our school and the things that we need. That's not what I'm going to be as a board member. I'll also say, in terms of creative solutions for enrollment, I've done that a lot in my time at a private school, and a lot of public schools are now growing and doing this to survive because we need to evolve. But number one, out of the elementary schools, we need aftercare. There's a lot of working families. We do not have it. Enrollment is, I think, low because of that. There's actually, I think, there's close to 165 students who are in our district that are not attending public school. We need to use our administration to figure out how to increase enrollment and get those kids in the public school seats. That's a 15 to 20% increase. We can also, with those admin, we can show up at certain places, we can collaborate with different partnerships as well to boost funds. But there's multiple ways that we can increase enrollment. And I really do think that by the administration working hard by trying to leverage that and the aftercare and also grant writing for enrichments that we have underutilized is super important.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop?
I'm not sure how administration can reach out to you know, have children from private schools re-enter the elementary, the public school system, since choosing to send your child to private school or to homeschool or, you know, whatever your choice or decision is a personal choice. I know that several students have gone into homeschooling or private school at certain times. Certainly some did during COVID. Certainly some did several years ago when the religious exemption for vaccines happened. But typically we get a trickle back in, and some of our students do return from private school at the middle school level before high school, because when they come back at high school, it's very, very difficult for them to pass the Regents exams and just deal with all the state requirements. I think that taking a look at our enrollment decreasing more quickly than was projected, we are on a path for a long-term plan that is providing the opportunity for us to move to a central campus. It is something that is supported by many folks in the district, but not everyone. And I think that is a possible solution for us as we have to become more fiscally responsible when Save Harmless is removed at some point, and it's likely going to happen next year. We have to have a plan in place for losing $3 to $6 million.
Thank you. Ms. Khan Arutia.
So, we had a $62 million budget here this year for 1,000 students. That's a lot of money. So when the state looks at that, you could say it's a red flag. It's a concern. You know, I think that, this is just my own opinion, I don't think the formula for rural schools should be the same for city schools. I don't think they should be the same, because rural schools face different obstacles than city schools do. There's a enrollment decline. There's no denying it. We're experiencing right now. How far that's going to go down, we don't know. Solutions to that. Yes, like Corinne said, grant writing for services. There's so much money out there. I would say, you know, maybe bring in somebody. I know now, from what I understand, the assistant superintendents write grants, but why not bring somebody in, maybe part-time, or even just to consult with us about grant writing and about what other things are out there, because there's so much money out there that could help us here, I think, for certain things. Not for everything. It's not like 100% solution. I also think that you know, variances, I know this is like touchy subject with some people, but I think it is something to be thought about too. That can be complicated in the paperwork aspect of things and who's in charge of that. But I do think that there are some things that could help. It's not going to solve it. It's just not. We are in, you know, there is a process that we're going through right now to go to a central campus. I would like to see that process out and to see what that looks like. But I'm also in favor of community schools and what community schools give to the community. Okay? Community schools, the staff and teachers in those schools are the first line of defense for families who are going through something. They're the first people who see it. They are the first people who get an inkling, and they can give that, you know, they can get for a family or for a child whatever they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knudsen.
So I think the obvious way to get ready for having to do with less is to find kind of leaks in your budget, things you're spending money on that aren't absolutely essential. And under the Princeton plan, which we've been under for about 12 years, a lot of that has been things like 5,000 miles a day of busing. We can run this district without that much busing. That way, if the cuts do come, if the adjustments do come and we have to adjust, we can make sure that we're still directing our resources to the most important parts of our program, which is teaching, extracurriculars, the things that really impact the students. Now, as far as enrollment goes, I think these things are connected, because if we get the expenditure, the fiscal responsibility aspect of our job in line, that can keep us from having to raise the tax levy too much. And I really think if you look at enrollment, there's two main things that are really hard to fight. There's a demographic line that's happening, fewer babies born. The junior class right now was the high point for babies born in the country. It's going to be less babies every year in the country from now, until you can see, as far as you can see. So to fight that would be difficult. In addition, in this area, we have very unaffordable housing. I'm a homeowner. My biggest single recurring expense in my house is my Onteora tax bill. So if we have to make up for losing foundation aid by raising taxes, that's going to make housing even more unaffordable and make it even more difficult for the young families who we want and need to move into the area to do it. So I think fiscal responsibility serves both ends, keeping the district ready to respond to whatever challenges, and keeping housing to the extent that a school board can't control the affordability of housing, but it is a component of it by the way it taxes, how much it taxes its citizens. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. Ooh, short one. All the talk has been about elementary schools. What 9 through 12 issues need attention? And we're going to start with Ms. Bishop. Sure enough, I'm going to talk into. All the talk is, oh, that's better. All the talk has been about elementary schools. What 9 to 12 issues need attention?
I just turned it off. 9 to 12 issues that need attention. I think probably the foremost issue that we have, especially at the secondary level, would be chronic absenteeism. I don't have data on what our situation is, but I know that it is a nationwide issue right now. There's always room for improvement. I think that moving our 6th grade students to the middle school this year is going to create much better programming. For middle school, it's going to create time in their schedules, because before 6th grade was in the middle school, they had 2 short years to complete all of their required middle school subjects before they moved on to the high school. We have an excellent 7 through 12 program with a number of AP classes, college credit classes, clubs, athletics for boys and girls. I can't really think of many issues that are not being solved here on a daily basis. Perhaps just taking a closer look at our DEI initiative that the board has been working on for the past several weeks, because that can only improve their day every day at K-12, not just at the middle school, high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Khan-Urrutia.
So many things. So I agree with Ms. Bishop about the DEI. DEI is huge. I think we could bring more people in for the community to not just for diversity, but just to show them what we have in the world and what people do in the world, to inspire them to go out when they leave here, to go out into the world and to be excited to go out into the world, to expose them to those things. Chronic absenteeism, I've seen it like at my daughter's school too. Like, I totally agree. So that, and then, we have all of these resources in the county as well. The county has a human rights person that could come in and talk to students and talk to groups within the school. There are national, the ACLU can come and talk to the LGBTQIA community. All of these things, all of this enrichment for them is what we need to do, I think, in order for them to also maybe want to come to school, maybe, maybe there's a survey that we could put out to parents or to students to see what they want more of from us or what they need. I think also what's huge with that is mental health. Mental health is a big thing for, I think, from 9 to 12. Also in the elementary level too. But I think what we've come into in the last 10 years is it's not such a stigma anymore, which I think is great, which I think is key. I think a lot of these kids coming out of COVID, I know for my young kids, like socially, it's been very difficult for them. Not very difficult, but there have been challenges. So I think nationally and here, we're in a unique spot right now where we're nursing these kids back into society a little bit because they were out of it for so long. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nuzzi.
Yeah, I think this is really a bewildering era to be a teenager. And I think they need our support in so many ways. My own younger daughter was a junior in high school when COVID hit. And she is still feeling the effects in many ways, in many of her cohorts. Whenever I meet people who have kids the same age, I really open up about the struggles I hear that our young people are going through. They have to learn, they've grown up in this era of the internet, which gives so many challenges in terms of just understanding, filtering information, filtering out bad information, that it's almost like they've been unmoored, or our society has been unmoored from things that we took for granted when we were their age. So I think what we need to do is support them, support their mental health, and yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau.
Thank you. So I do want to note that I do think that the consolidation and closures of our elementary schools can impact 9 through 12, especially in terms of the bond and financially. And Harvard Business Review does say that sometimes consolidation can really devastate an economy. So I want to note that the consolidation that's happening right now with the elementary school does impact 9 through 12. With that said, this is what I do. I really specialize with mental health, and I think that is number one. The number one concern across schools in America. Every year, reports come out that mental health is declining in our children. At a national level, I train and support schools and other clinicians in how to better engage our kids, how to assess for suicidality, and how to connect them with their interests, with their communities, and also just with meaning. And I rolled out a lot of programming, civic engagement, student-led engagement to increase mental health positive rates within teens nationally. I think that's number one, and I appreciate Onteora's commitment to that and continuing to fund mental health support. I also just want to shout out DEI. I appreciate Cindy bringing the DE&I and belonging piece to the board and the district. I think it's a first step, and really supporting through curriculum, through programming, through hiring and community events. I'd really like to see some initiatives around that, and especially when things are student-led, they're more motivating. When kids are not engaged in things, they're doing drugs, they're getting into trouble, and I really like to engage kids by collaborating with them.
Thank you. Okay. This is an issue that is near and dear to our league. It is a huge issue all around rural New York State, and it is. The cost of childcare in our district is incredibly high. Would you be willing to explore expanding district tax dollars to subsidize daycare for ages below our current pre-K offerings? Ms. Khan-Urrutia.
So I think this goes back to grant writing. I think we need to write grants. I know this year, for example, at First Steps, everybody was able to be in the pre-K program because they wrote a grant for it. I think there are more ways that we could explore this and expand it. I think, like what Corinne said, I think the aftercare should be explored. If we could figure that out, I think that would be great. I know for me personally, it is tough. You know, I work for a small business, and thank God that I do, because you know what? I don't know if I would be able to. If I didn't have the job that I did, I wouldn't be working, because you know I have to pick my 4-year-old up by 3 o'clock, and then my older daughter gets off the bus at 3:50. So like, there's no working at 5 o'clock here. That's not happening. So I do think that if there is other government programs that we can tap into for that, or the state or federally, I think this also goes back to the community, and that we really, you know, like much of like what we did with the budget cuts. You know, a group of musicians from, you know, went up there and spoke to our state senate, and I think that's great, and I think that goes back to parents too. We need to keep writing letters, we need to keep being vocal, and I think that really helped this time around. So there's that too. I think that, you know, again, to have somebody who knows grants and who knows really specifically which ones to do, I think is really going to help us going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Knudsen.
I'm sorry, can I ask you to repeat the question?
Yes, you can. The cost of childcare in our district is incredibly high. Would you be willing to explore expanding district tax dollars to subsidize daycare for ages below or our current pre-K offerings?
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand this question. So our current pre-K is currently for 4-year-olds. So what we're talking about here is 3K, what they call it, right, for kids under 4. And we're wondering whether we should use Onteora district dollars to subsidize that.
That's my understanding.
So this is a really interesting question, actually, in light of the recent state budget negotiations, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but we've all been applauding how our legislatures stood up to the Albany, you know, our local legislatures stood up to the state legislators to the budget process and got foundation aid restored this year. What you may not know is one of the ways that they restored our foundation aid this year is by cutting entirely the 3K money that they had allotted for this year. So that is an indicative that we're in an era where resources are being taxed. I do think I would certainly, since it seems to be the same pot of money in a sense, our foundation aid and the 3K money are somehow connected, that yeah, I'd be willing to look at that. I'd have to look at what the impact is on the K through 12 population, but it's as foundational as elementary school is. The research is very clear. Going to pre-K is a huge difference in outcomes down the road, and we've made huge progress in funding pre-K. We don't want to see that go away, but again, it would very much depend on the specifics. I'd have to look at what the actual impact would be on the regular district population. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau?
Well, I want to thank whoever asked that question, because according to a lot of research, childcare in the area has decreased by 40%, offers it, and I have experienced myself as of recently with 2 under 4, or that it's really difficult. You're managing a lot to figure out how to care for your children while having time for yourself, while caring for them, shuffling them around, managing all of the things. And it can get really unaffordable and pricey, and it is a crisis across the United States. I think it's very important to continue to lobby. I think that there's opportunities between public and private collaborations. I think for Onteora K through 12, I think our biggest opportunity is providing and securing a contract that provides aftercare for our kindergartners, our first graders, our youngest ones, to help our families out. I also really think it's important to support some of the universal pre-K expansions. I know that over at Woodland Playhouse with Christina, seeing her UPK program expand and the community really rally around her. I think by doing these things in our small community, that's how we get things done: community support, community mutual aid, and really trying to find that funding somewhere. We are an amazingly talented and diverse district, and I think when we work together, we can get a lot of stuff done.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop?
I keep doing that. I'm so used to turning it off every time I use it. We have our universal pre-K partners in the district are, I believe, both still running programs that are universal pre-Ks for 4-year-olds and also private daycare. So the district does write those grants for the universal pre-K, and you know, it's a real process, and our partners are so amazing. And I do know that last year the district did provide additional funding so that our universal pre-K students, our 4-year-olds, were able to access full day programming instead of just the half day that one of our grants provides. So we have a full day grant and we have a half day grant. So, and the state has been willing to work with us so that we were able to combine 2 half-day seats and make a full-day seat, and so the students were able to access that. We've also advocated through the New York State School Board Association and have written resolutions for a universal pre-K for 3-year-olds, but unfortunately that has not happened. And I believe 2 years in a row we submitted that resolution, which did not pass. So, school districts are responsible for to their taxpayers for their fiscal responsibility, and we are not able to provide school budget monies to preschools to help support their programming. Public schools don't fund daycare, and the grants that do support those daycares are typically written by the daycare providers. Thank you.
Thank you. Given how insular social media has made us, can you give a concrete example of a time that you actively sought to ensure your point of view was informed? Mr. Knudsen.
I'm sorry, my point of view wasn't informed?
Was informed.
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, here I am running for school board, right? I didn't really expect to be here like 6 months ago, but I really think it's such an important time for this district. I had to step up to do this. And there's a lot I didn't know when I decided to step up. Luckily, as has been previously mentioned, Onteora has made great strides in putting a ton of information, well organized, on its website. And so I have been poring over historical documents for the past month, 2 months. I've read the Bachman report that happened in 2019, cover to cover. It's very interesting. It really, I think, it's funny. We live in an era where there's so much information. You just have to you have to make the effort to go find it. You have to know where to look. And so, yeah, that has been my big process of getting myself informed. is I am intimately familiar with the Onteora Central School District website. And it's really good. And if you're not intimately familiar with it, go there, read it. It's really informative. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau?
So I get all of my information off TikTok. No, I don't. That was a joke. But I will say I've been going through the weeds of our website, and it is there's a lot of information, but you can get into the weeds for sure. Well, I, as an art therapist and an educator, resources that are cited and data informed are really important to me. I've done research myself. I really looked for, like I taught with my students, 20th century learning skills, critical thinking is important. Part of being data informed is looking at all of the research and information out there. There's a lot with varying perspectives. And I like to read all those varying perspectives and kind of poke holes in things. And so, yeah, when I'm going through the interwebs and looking through JSTOR and looking at research and studies, I'm constantly looking at where do they came from, the sources of those, looking at different perspectives. I think it's really important skill to have these days, and also to teach our children on how to really have critical thinking skills and apply those with all the resources that are out there.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop?
I think that it's, there's so much information online. There's so much information on social media. But on social media, there are also opinions. And so I think it's really easy to get into these conflicts where, you're trying to get your point across, and you're basing it on what you know or what facts you believe, and then the trouble can start. So it can become very frustrating. I see a lot of that frustration on social media, and I wish that we could take a pause and take a deep breath and come together maybe and discuss the facts and as we know them, and the facts that we know may not be the most 100% accurate up to the moment, and that's where a conversation comes in handy. I agree that our website is very, very extensive, and I know that reading it for 6 weeks or so, one could become just inundated with information. So, but we have worked really, really hard at getting our website up to par. And yes, we're flooding you with information, and we really hope that people are accessing it. There's so much to learn, and we look forward to the continued conversation.
Thank you. Ms. Khan-Urrutia.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Given how insular social media has made us, can you give a concrete example of a time that you actively sought to ensure your point of view was informed?
So there's a clear divide in this district right now, and social media is a big part of that. I think as parents and as community members, we are responsible for closing that divide, sitting down and having cordial, nice conversations. Everyone's going to have an opinion, and it's not always going to be the same. And what somebody looked at one website is not going to be the same as what somebody else looked at on another website. Social media can be barbaric, and I don't think it gives the most accurate information all the time. I think that I love the website. I love what they have done, or what I've seen. There is a lot of information on it. Wow, it's a lot to take in. But I think in sort of ensuring that we gain back some people's trust, I think it's very important to have that information on there, to have transparency. And I also think that going forward with everything that is going to be happening, we need to continue to do that. There was just a communication survey done, which I applaud the board for doing. I think that was great. But I think one of the things that stuck out to me was that 70%, and you can correct me, Cindy, if I'm wrong, 70% of the people who took it were community members 70 and older. While that's great, and that means that the community cares, which they should, I think that what I would like to see is more parents taking those surveys. Because at the end of the day, it's the kids. The kids aren't number one. It is not about what adults are fighting about. It is about what is best for these children in the now and in the future.
Thank you. We are on a path now to a central campus, which has divided our community. How will you bring the community together, and what is your hope for a central campus? Ms. Nadeau.
Well, first I'd like to say that as a therapist, I can hold space in a lot of difficult emotional space with conflicting ideas and thoughts. I personally would like to pause in the consolidation process because I would like to make a mindful decision where we're at now in assessing data from the closure of Phoenicia. I'd like us to slow down and assess student achievement, as school closure has a strong correlation with lowering student achievement. That's a research fact. I'm really curious about community culture. I'm curious about cost analysis, especially with busing. I'm curious about real estate impacts and affordable housing. I really would like some more transparency on the capital costs that the consolidation is going to happen before I fully co-sign the consolidation vision. There's a lot of research out there that shows that in rural economies, consolidation can really upset the economy and the culture, which our children are a part of. Our children are part of that culture in the future. And so, you know, if consolidation moves forward, I will hold grace with everybody, and I will hold space for differing views.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop?
I think it's really important for us to listen to each other, have conversations, respectful conversations, you know, stop attacking each other because we have differing views. I think that the district is on the right track in terms of the community forums that are coming up to discuss, I guess, our concerns and our hopes for a central campus, and then our vision for what we would like to see in a central campus. I would like to see people coming together. I've experienced this coming together recently in a number of occasions that I've been to, where people from Phoenicia, Woodstock, teachers, administrators are working together on a project, having a good time, having progress together, and patting each other on the back. And maybe a few months ago, those people were divided by their frustration over the potential for a central campus. I do think that a central campus would be a wonderful thing to bring our community together. We are divided, and right now we're divided because we're frustrated and angry. I'm not, but I'm using the universal we. But for us to bring everyone together, have an opportunity to learn, to meet each other, to learn about each other, to meet each other's children. I think that the possibilities are endless for making the Central Campus a success. The other piece that I think is a really important piece is the opportunity for the Central Campus to be a state-of-the-art campus. And that's something that it's not just about feelings, it's also about progress and being, the best school we can be moving into the future.
Thank you. Ms. Khan-Yarutia?
So there is a process to this. I think we all have to look at what the steps in the process are. So in order for us to get to the bond vote, many things have to happen first. Well, we're doing vision exercises right now, which I think is great. I think everybody should go to them. The World Cafes, all of these events that the district has put on, I think that's vitally important at this moment, especially to maybe even out the anger. Before I go over the steps, I just want to say, I come from a place of, I went to Woodstock School until I was in 4th grade, and then I went to Phoenicia School. So I've experienced both schools. They both have very special places in my heart. And I'm for community schools because I work for a small business, a small business that's been there for 50 years, and other small businesses that have been there for almost the same amount of time. And in these towns, these small businesses, that's their life. That's their living. It's not just some hobby that they have. It's their livelihood. And I really think that in a year's time, after Phoenicia's closes, we really need to talk and have dialogue with those businesses there to see how it's affected them. Because maybe going forward, if and when consolidation happens, I think that we need to make sure the use of these buildings that are closed is in good use for the community. Rec center, maybe we use it for a universal pre-K building, one of them, or something like that. It needs to go back into the community in a positive way. In terms of the bond process, you have to consult with an architect and a financial advisor. You need a budget plan for it. You need an environmental review. Then it goes for a vote. And then the state education department has to approve it. There has to be a competitive bid to award the contract to do the construction, then permits from the state education department, and then construction. Oh, sorry. I'm terrible.
Mr. Knudsen.
Yeah, so bringing the community together, I think, is one of the most important things that has to happen in this district. And I think more than anything, there's obviously all these exercises we can go through. It's really a matter of mindset, of compassion, of walking in the other person's shoes and imagining what it's been like for them and what it will be like if things change. So one of my least favorite things about this Princeton plan that has been in place for 12 years is how disparately it affected communities. I think depending on where you live, depending on how your family might have been sent in different directions or your neighbors going in different directions, you experience that very differently than somebody who lived near one of the village schools. And so I think it's important for the people who have been in the villages to understand that and just imagine what it's been like for those people. At the same time, if we move toward central campus, I think it's really important for people who are in favor of a central campus, I am, to acknowledge that that will be felt as a loss from the people who are losing something. So one of my favorite moments that happened in recent memory was the move of the Phoenicia Garden shed to the Bennett campus. I think rituals like that and community gatherings can really help our children process whatever change. And I just want to finish by saying I really think children are much more adaptable to change than adults are. I think the resistance to change is much more of a grown-up thing. And I think it's really important that the grown-ups in our community model for our children a positive outlook to imagining change, to embracing change, and not giving them the impression that if change does come, it will be a disaster for them, because it's not going to be a disaster for them. They're going to be okay, and we need to, as a community, approach this with respect, compassion for each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Our community has shown it cares deeply about the environment. To what extent does Onteora have a responsibility to minimize its greenhouse gas emissions? And how should it deal with the coming EV bus mandate? We'll start with Ms. Bishop.
So the new EV bus mandate is a real bone of contention, I think, for the Onteora School District. We were able to secure an $8 million grant from the EPA to purchase buses, infrastructure, charging stations, and so on. We worked with a number of agencies who really could not help us. They didn't have any answers. The governor's mandate was not followed by, a manual on what's next. We couldn't find property for we have a very, very small bus garage here on our central campus. We couldn't find property for a bus garage. So the sad story is that we had to decline that $8 million grant that we could have done so much with if we could have used it. We also spoke with Central Hudson and New York State Electric and Gas, who both told us that the electric infrastructure here would not provide us with the electricity needed to charge those buses. So we were super disappointed because we were really excited. Yes, we have a huge carbon footprint. We're emitting 100 metric tons a year from our diesel fuel alone. We're emitting 24 tons a year from our heating oil and to heat our buildings. So yes, our carbon footprint is tremendous. And the EV bus situation is something that we're hoping to have as soon as possible. But I think an advantage of a central campus would be that we would be heating fewer buildings and driving far, far fewer miles than we do now, which is 5,000 a day.
Thank you. Ms. Khan-Urrutia.
So I think it would be great if we could have the EV buses, but there's obviously some obstacles. I remember hearing about this and reading about this. You know, we need a spot to put them. That's one of the requirements. Also, I think it's tricky with the EV buses because we have such a huge district, so they're going up mountains. Will they carry enough of a charge for that long? What if there's, a weather occurrence? I mean, it's more than just where to put them and if our infrastructure allows it. I think there's that too. In terms of we put out a big carbon footprint, but I think doing these gardens at the elementary schools, I think that helps. Anything like that helps, Also, I think that we could maybe look into more solar opportunities for the buildings. I think that would be really good. I think maybe we could find a grant out there for that. I think it's also really important to teach our students what that means, and to teach them, how that affects not just here but the world too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knutson.
Yes, this is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart, and I think is one of the most important challenges we as a generation face. I've been trying to walk the walk myself. My wife is in the audience, and she knows that 3 of our biggest household expenses over the last year have been solar panels and EV. I drove my EV here tonight. It's parked out in the lot. And heat pumps. We finally got rid of our oil furnace about a month ago. So, we're preparing children to go out into the world, and it's just undeniable that the impact of greenhouse gas emissions and the effect on the climate is happening now. We used to think it was going to be 100 years from now. It has started. And so, and if you look at what the drivers of where the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, buildings, is one of the categories. And the fact that we have been sending around buses that are not full in every direction, 5,000 miles a day, has been not a good thing for us to be doing. And I think if we want to give our children hope in this issue, in this regard, that we're going to get this under control, we have to live our values, and we can't wait. We can't wait another 25 years to start living our values. So I think carbon footprint is hugely important, and I think Central Campus, by reducing the number of buildings we have open and reducing the number of buses that are on the roads all the time, is the way to go. EV transition is hard. I think that's going to be a legislative outreach committee issue, because really the infrastructure issues, the electricity issues are beyond the scope of a school board. It's going to be state government, even federal government, getting involved in beefing up the infrastructure in the entire area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau?
Yes, I was also disheartened with the EV bus decision. It's like waving candy in front of somebody and then taking it away. And I really do hope that the state is kind of learning from their mistake of this rollout and applying some solutions so that we're able to take advantage of this in the future. If we don't have enough space where the buses are, maybe, community mutual aid, there's somebody who can provide that space for us. I'll also note my husband installs solar panels, and we care a lot about that in our household. He's been up on many roofs and lands installing, and we compost, so this is something also near to our hearts, Rick. And I think what's really interesting is some of the things they're doing in other states to actually decrease budget, where they're leasing out some of the school land to really benefit using solar, using wind. So there are companies out there that will pay schools to lease land. So it's a creative idea, a little wacky, but I think that this is a really interesting thing to talk about. I'll also note that I think that we need to stop and assess and be data informed. The bus runs were less than projected. We saved some bus runs, but originally projected there was more bus runs and closing Phoenicia. That was said to be going to be decreasing with this close. So I think it's important that as we're going this process to continue to check in to say, like, what is the actual, what are we actually saving here? I'll also note that with closing buildings, we've also been dangled a promise of amazing community buildings, but we have West Hurley still rotting and sitting there, and we pay utilities on that. Phoenicia, I'm still waiting, but I would love to see it used in a community-oriented way. But show me, and then I will believe in that dream. Thank you.
Thank you. In a different direction. What does equity in this district mean to you? And we'll start with Ms. Khan Arrutia.
Equity means so much, and so much to me. My husband's from El Salvador. My kids are, as you could say, they're mixed raced. I think it's every family in this district needs to feel welcome here, and they need to feel safe. And I think how do we do that? We make sure that by doing like a diversity fair or a diversity day, that they are exposed to all different cultures. We also make sure that, in terms of, I think equity also has to do with bullying, that we make sure that every child in this school feels safe, whether they're from the LGBTQIA community, whether they're Central American, African American, Chinese, white, everybody. I think everybody should feel welcome here no matter what. I think it has been brought up that doing the Central Campus will prevent equity. I I don't necessarily completely agree with that. I do think that by making sure that we do all of those other things, that we will prevent that from happening. I also think that, you know, the Hispanic population in this district has gone up over the years. So I think this goes to also teacher diversity. You know, we can't control who applies to the school district, but in terms of our hiring, I feel like that what I would really like to see, I would like to see a committee for teacher diversity and how we maybe reach out somehow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've never understood why there's so much debate about equity. I think it's one of the first lessons and one of the first instincts that we have when we're in kindergarten, right? I mean, I think you can use just the word fairness, basic fairness. What are kindergartners really good at saying? No fair. They have a very strong sense of fairness. And so what does fairness mean? It means not doing things that disadvantage one group of people and advantage another. And I think it's something we can all basically understand, and we have understood from when we were young. So, you know, I think it's as simple as that. Whatever policies we adopt, and the other thing is, whatever policies we adopt should serve the entire community in a fair way and not advantage one group over another. And the other thing I wanted to say went out of my head just now. So I'm going to think for a minute because I have another 30 seconds. Equity is fairness. I'm going to stop there. Thanks.
Thank you.
I
Ms.
would
Nadeau.
love some more water if anybody has any. I get nervous. I drink a lot of water. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much. Equity, everybody. Okay, so first I want to start by defining equity because I think it's a not everybody knows what it means, and it's a term that gets thrown around loosely, and I think it's important to define it. So equity means that everybody gets what they need, not that everybody gets the same thing. And so I think about that with a one-size-fits-all consolidated plan, which some things can hinder equity, like long bus rides home, being farther away from home, being farther away from grandparents picking you up, larger classroom sizes. In those smaller classroom sizes, you get personalization. In those smaller classroom environments in elementary school, I mean, think about it, look around. It's multiple elementary schools, if you look at other districts, and then one middle school, one high school. There's a reason for that. Younger kids need smaller, safer environments to feel emotionally safe. A little bit of biology here. When emotions can block cognition. So learner readiness, kids need to feel safe. Kids need to feel calm. And they feel calmer when they have that home environment that's smaller, okay? And so that's what kids need, is that personalization and that really, really nurturing, smaller care. And that's what I'm thinking about when kids get what they need, is that personalization. I'll also say, in terms of equity, I'm very excited about the committee that's forming. I'd also like to give a shout out to intentional programming, intentional integration of curriculum. I will say that we've done a great job at using curriculum. Everybody gets the same curriculum, but there's ways to differentiate that. And I also think we can diversify the educator workforce and look towards adopting early dual language programs. I think that's really important as well. And also engage our families, teachers, community members in this discussion.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop?
You're welcome. I think educational equity is a big thing for me. I think that I've taught in a much larger district, but I do know that here and in Monticello, where there were 3 elementary schools with approximately 600 students in each one, that when you're teaching in one of those 3 buildings, even though you are following the New York State Learning Standards and you're using the same curriculum, potentially at the same grade level that you're teaching, everybody teaches differently. There's not necessarily a time to come together for the professional staff to work together, to plan together, and it happens everywhere, and it happens here. So I think that educational equity can really be, I don't know, maybe not resolved completely, but there would be tremendous support for educational equity on a central campus. I'm always concerned about, do kids get the food that they need? Do they have the housing that they need? Are they unhoused? Are they living in a car? Are they sleeping on somebody's couch? So these are, for me, these are equity issues as well. I think that the community divide that we're experiencing right now is creating a little sense of inequity, and it's something that really doesn't have to happen. I feel we can do a much better job. I just want to address the long bus rides, because there have been long bus rides here for forever. We live in a district of almost 300 square miles. Somebody's going to have a long bus ride. The central campus is actually going to make most students' bus rides shorter. Yes, if you live right next door to Woodstock Elementary School, it's going to take you longer to get to school on the central campus. Class sizes are not going to get larger. The number of teachers will remain the same as long as our enrollment remains the same. If we have 60 kids, we're probably still going to have 4 classes. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're almost at the end, and I don't want to go over, so we're going to go right to our 3-minute closing statements now, and we will start with Mr. Knutson.
Okay. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and thank my fellow candidates for participating. I just want to say, I know I started tonight by sounding a warning bell about foundation aid, which I think really is important for every voter to hear. But I want to end on a consideration of what our children and communities stand to gain by coming together in an undivided school community. It's not just that teachers and support staff won't have to lose instruction time to driving up and down Route 28. It's not just that fewer transitions and better collaboration opportunities across grade levels stand to improve their educational outcomes. It's not just that it will take fewer bus miles and overall travel time to get everyone to school. It's not just that we'll become more responsible stewards of our children's environmental future by reducing, as we said before, our very high carbon footprint. It's not just that we can keep class sizes in the desired range while giving teachers more flexibility to shape classes that match teaching and learning styles. It's not just that moving children around the district based on the luck of where they are needed, or to fill out a class size requirement. That would be a thing of the past. I firmly believe that the essential function of public school is to provide any child from any background, whatever their advantages or needs, the skills and support they need to prepare themselves to move out into the world as citizens and thinkers when they leave us. But the magic of public school is seeing those children come together and learn from each other. How to be a friend, a teammate, a collaborative singer, dancer, or actor. How to work through differences and conflicts when they arise. How to support each other through disappointments or heartbreak. I want to emphasize this. Community is not found in buildings, it's found in people. By keeping our intimate cohorts of children separated, we've been diluting one of their most important educational resources, each other. Let's find the courage to let go of our fears and bring our community, our whole far-flung community, together. It is time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nadeau?
So I have a positive vision of a vibrant school system, not just closure. and I am a highly experienced educational leader, and I'd like to apply my expertise supporting this district. It is a bumpy road ahead for our district, either way you slice it. And consolidation and closure still feels rushed, and it still feels wrong. Close Phoenicia under a year. And the majority of confidence is just not there from our community. We want more data when our community and children are at stake. Let's assess data after Phoenicia closing before moving any further. Assess student emotion, achievement, building repurpose, enrollment, community impact, real estate, cost analysis, like with busing, and let's make consolidation costs public. If it's solely based on financials, then everyone in the district should have those numbers to make an informed decision. We need to continue to look at all new and evolving metrics. Additionally, I think we should be trying all innovative and new solutions before shuttering any schools. From what I observed and historically researched, we have not done all of those things. Elementary consolidation costs can negatively impact funds for enrichment and quality for students at elementary, middle, and high school levels. Closures have serious short-term and long-term consequences to communities. We should be looking hard at dedicated outreach efforts and partnerships to boost accessible enrollments and help funds. As the Bauman report says, we haven't been strategic, and we need to be. It's time to start playing offense instead of defense for the survival of our public schools. Looking at Bennett and Woodstock Elementary enrollment data, there are some classrooms that are filled up to Onteora's definition of appropriate classroom size, and it appears that we have an appropriate configuration now for this enrollment and district, and opportunities to increase 10 to 20% if our district leaders are willing to try. Let's give our teachers, families, students less stress after all they've been through on the heels of COVID with continual shuffling and closures and uncertainty. Therefore, consolidation efforts regarding Woodstock should be paused until we have clearer data. We have a wonderful group of public servants to choose from up here, and we probably agree on 90% of things. There's just one big major thing we're conflicted about, and I ask community members to use civil discourse online and in person with these good-willed public servants as candidates. Let's be positive role models for future generations. And to close, boards thrive with folks who have diverse and experienced perspectives on the board. I am that. I am passionate and informed by various data and research. Historically, we haven't had enough educators on the Board of Education. That matters. And with that said, thank you, teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week, families, grandparents who are boots on the ground, really making an incredible difference every day with our children in the community, and I hope to represent you and your perspective while serving on this board.
Thank you. Ms. Bishop.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for facilitating this exchange of ideas. Thank you to the audience for your amazing questions. And I hope that you have a better understanding of who I am. And if I've left any of your questions unanswered, please do reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. Before I go on, I just want to state very clearly that I support Rick Knutson enthusiastically, and he has my vote. We can't let declining enrollment and unaffordable housing ruin the amazing community that we have here in Onteora. There are some things we can't control. Let's work together on the things that we can control. Let's mirror the camaraderie I've experienced recently at the Bennett Phoenicia Garden Build or at the Meet, Greet, and Eat, where PTAs, parents, teachers, administrators, and local business owners worked shoulder to shoulder, volunteering their time to do what's right for kids. Our children and grandchildren could be our guides. They come together with teammates from all over the district every time they play youth sports together. They don't separate based on the school building they attend or the street that they live on. They play and laugh and develop lasting friendships. I believe the adults can do the same thing. Onteora is a great place because of the people who live and work here, who raise their families here, who teach our kids here. It's not great because of the school buildings we send our children to. It's the people and the opportunities that make Onteora District so great. As Majora Carter says, if we're going to be a part of the solution, We have to engage the problems. I engage the problems. I have advocated and lobbied for students and families from the moment I first became a teacher. I advocate and lobby for immigrant rights and the rights of self-employed cash economy artists, writers, musicians, restaurant workers, all local Ulster County residents who suffered financial ruin during the pandemic because they didn't qualify for unemployment insurance. I advocate for food and housing security. I continue to advocate strongly for fair state aid funding for our schools, spending countless hours in Albany and in the local offices of our representatives, attending rallies, making my voice heard in support of our students and members of our own community. I continue to advocate for all children in our district, not just children who live in certain areas, but all of them from every community. I am a board candidate who is truly open, sharing factual information, providing real resources, guiding the board, and having conversations with constituents, encouraging them to consider the possibilities, the wins, Onteora's potential.
Thank you. That was stop, right, Eve? Yeah. A little over. Okay, so oh, no, I almost forgot.
Again, I
Ms.
want to
Todd.
thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I want to thank the League of Women's Voters for putting on this event. I appreciate it. If I have the honor of your vote, I will continue to be an even-handed, transparent member who takes every point of view into serious consideration. There are many issues besides consolidation that I think need to be addressed. Consolidation has taken up a lot of oxygen for good reason. It's a very important issue, but my goal as a board member is to bring up other issues and discuss other things that I think have fallen to the wayside. I'm a parent of young kids in the district and a taxpayer. I would like to ensure that my children and yours are being afforded every available opportunity while bearing in mind the burden on that taxpayer. My husband's an immigrant, my brother's gay, I'm Jewish, and what all of that means is that I come from a diverse background and I know what acceptance is, and if you give me your vote, I will do everything in my power to do what I think is right with the facts in front of me. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. And before we end, I just want to acknowledge Lindsay Shans, who did all of the work and will take credit, but she did a great job. Eve Bear, the audience who came and the ones online, but especially these wonderful candidates. Thank you.
So before we go, I just want to thank everybody for attending. I think that this event is really important for our community, and I will continue to do it as long as I'm in the district. But before I go, I just want to give a shout out that you can still sign up. You can still RSVP to the sharing sessions that are this Monday in person and online, May 13th and 14th from 6 to 8. It's really important that we are a part of the conversation. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. There are cookies and brownies over here if anyone needs a sugar boost.